First-person shooter genre has a long history dating back to early 1990s. Born in the offices of id Software, it began with a simple project named Hoover Tank 3D, which was later followed up by what is considered to be the first successful FPS game, Wolfenstein 3D. However, it wasn't until the first Doom game when the genre would be popularized on a much wider scale. In 1996, the company would release its next milestone in form of Quake, which took the technological advancements of the growing industry to a whole new level. The new id Tech engine, which allowed for full 3D rendering paired with fast-paced, fun combat, has piqued an interest of some employees working at Microsoft. Their names were Mike Harrington and Gabe Newell. The fascination with the video game industry prompted them to quit Microsoft in order to establish their own company that would become known as Valve. Their vision was to harness the potential of the first-person shooter genre, which, while fun, was generally trivialized instead of being iterated upon, as most games such as Doom or Quake were seen by Newell as simple shooting galleries with little substance behind them. The developers at Valve saw the untapped potential of this genre, so they set out to create the first FPS game of their own. As the team was small and still relatively fresh to the world of video game development, they have obtained a license for id Software's latest engine, and through the process of replacing roughly 75% of the original code with their own, a new engine dubbed Gold Source was born. The first project under the Valve's banner was codenamed Quiver, named after the military base from Stephen King's novella called The Mist, which was a major inspiration for the game alongside id Software's Doom and Quake. Ultimately, a different name was chosen to fit with the sci-fi theme, and with the Lambda logo corresponding to the equation it was named after, the project was now known as Half-Life. Set in and below the desert of New Mexico, deep within the secret research complex called Black Mesa, players would step into the shoes of a theoretical physicist turned action hero named Gordon Freeman. The game was unlike any other at the time. Instead of being split into episodes and dropping players into simple levels focused solely on killing monsters and looking for an exit to the next level, it took more of a narrative-driven approach. The environments were rewarding exploration, NPCs could be interacted with, as would be some of the elements of the world itself, puzzles were introduced as a gameplay element, and there was no pressure to complete the levels in the shortest time or get the best possible score. Players could also backtrack to the previous maps for the first time, and with no intermissions between them, the story of the game felt much more coherent and connected to the main character. The narrative itself has also taken much more of a center stage. While the older games usually had some plot, it really used to be just a backdrop and an excuse to kill everything in your wake. Half-Life was different. You as a player was an integral part of the unfolding story, as Gordon Freeman traveled from one section of the base to another in hopes of resolving the alien invasion, meeting new characters along the way, and learning new bits of lore related to the Black Mesa facility itself. To ensure that the narrative of the game would be adequately compelling, Valve has hired a sci-fi novelist named Mark Laidlaw. With his contributions, the game truly broke the seal in terms of storytelling within the FPS genre. The cutscenes had to be done in the first person, instead of being directed in a more cinematic way, but this has brought some unexpected benefits in form of heightened immersion. From the beginning of the game, all the way until the very end, the player never leaves the body of Gordon Freeman, experiencing the universe of the game through his eyes at any given moment. When it comes to the gameplay, Half-Life has been much more refined in comparison to other FPS games of its time. Resource management became much more prominent thanks to the continuous design of the levels paired with a wide variety of weapons and tools available at players' disposal. While the combat was much more intricately designed and allowed for more creativity, it was no longer the only major element of gameplay design. Action segments would often be broken apart with moments of calm, usually involving various puzzles which had to be solved in order to unlock the path forward. This has allowed to create a better pacing of the game, as there was more substance to it than simple rushing forward and obliterating everything on the way. More freedom and exploration of the in-game world has allowed players to digest the story and discover the lore behind the universe of Half-Life all by themselves, thanks in no small part to the introduction of environmental storytelling. The game introduced a good variety of enemy types, more locations to uncover and story beats to experience, on top of the cinematic moments which were triggered directly by the player and allowed them to observe the consequences of their actions in real time. All of this contributed to a very unique, satisfying and complete package which forever changed the way video games would be perceived. First-person shooter genre was no longer just about killing everything the game threw at you, as Half-Life proved that it could also be a vessel for brilliant storytelling. It is undeniable that it changed the industry forever, but the design itself wasn't the only reason for it. Being a tremendous success of its time, Half-Life has spawned a growing community that would elevate the modding scene of the gaming industry to another level. With the SDK for the game being provided by Valve, it allowed for the fans to get creative and spawn a whole plethora of custom content ranging from simple maps to basically entirely new games running on the new Gold Source engine. Valve itself was also paying close attention to this and took an opportunity to recruit many of the talented modders into their ranks and in some cases even adapt the most popular mods and turn them into fully fledged games. After all, without Half-Life and its modding scene, there would be no Day of Defeat, Team Fortress and even Counter-Strike, which as we all know went on to become an absolute behemoth in its own right. There is no shadow of a doubt that Half-Life and its modding community have had a massive impact on the video game industry, and we can observe the consequences of that success to this very day. Valve has established themselves as pioneers of the narrative-driven first-person shooters, and what they have achieved with their first product was not only impressive, but also crucial to the future of the genre. After the game released, Mike Harrington would leave the company to pursue his own interests, leaving Gabe Newell the sole owner that would become a leading figure in the video game industry as a whole. Valve itself would become an insanely profitable company, always pushing the envelope. But it is only fair to admit that it likely wouldn't have found the same level of success had they not kicked off their career in video game development with such a crucial title. And because of that, Half-Life will forever be the genre-defining masterpiece that it is.